Donald Trump is panicking as he has suffered a massive and catastrophic defeat in his unlawful war against Iran. The people of Iran have taken to the streets, rejoicing in their complete and total victory over Donald Trump and his regime. You see the people out on the street here in Iran. Here are people out in Iraq and Baghdad. Across the Middle East, the Shiite community and others are out partying and having parades over the defeat of the United States. And let's be very clear, this was a total and utter capitulation and surrender by Donald Trump and his regime. The Trump regime said that they were adopting the 10-point negotiating framework from Iran. And when you read that framework, which we've been talking about for weeks now, Iran's 10-point negotiating framework. Remember, the Trump regime had a 15-point negotiating framework where they wanted Iran to surrender. Iran had a 10-point negotiating framework, which the Trump regime was saying that's nonsense. We won't even look at it. These are, quote, maximalist demands that will never allow us to get to a ceasefire or an end to this war. Well, the Trump regime didn't just take one or two or three of those points from Iran's 10-point negotiating plan. Trump accepted all 10. You want to know what those 10 are? There's a statement here. I mean, I've read them before, but this is what Iran's Supreme National Security Council put out. Here's the 10 points that Trump agreed to. Commitment to non-aggression, continuation of Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz. And by the way, Iran says only 10 to 15 ships will get to go through the Strait of Hormuz and have to pay a $2 million fee to Iran. Acceptance of uranium enrichment from Iran. Lifting of all the primary sanctions and all secondary sanctions against Iran. Termination of all UN Security Council resolutions against Iran. Termination of all Board of Governor resolutions against Iran. Payment of compensation to Iran for all the damage caused during the war. Withdrawal of U.S. combat forces from the region, cessation of war on all fronts, including against Hezbollah and Lebanon. You can't get much more of a surrender than that. Iran got everything it wanted and more. And when those points were pointed out to Donald Trump and his regime, Donald Trump lost it. So the CNN posted a graphic of what the 10-point Iranian negotiating framework is. There's a reason why the Iranians are celebrating, because they got everything they wanted and more in this. But CNN published the 10-point framework, and Donald Trump was like, the alleged statement put out by CNN World News is a fraud, as CNN well knows. The false statement was linked to a fake news site from Nigeria, and of course immediately picked up by CNN and blared out as a legitimate headline. The official statement by Iran was just released and posted on Truth. Below, authorities are looking to determine whether or not a crime was committed on the issuance of the fake news, the fake CNN World statement, or was it a sick rogue player? CNN is being ordered to immediately withdraw this statement with full apologies for their, as usual, terrible reporting. Results of the investigation will be announced in the near future. Donald J. Trump. And then Donald Trump's FCC chair, Brendan Carr, he's like, we're going to go after CNN. Leadership needs to be changed immediately. The FCC will be attacking CNN for putting out the actual statement of Iran's Supreme National Security Council. By the way, CNN didn't need to publish it. Iran's 10-point negotiating framework has been discussed for weeks. And one of the reasons that I was pessimistic about a ceasefire happening was because Trump, Witkoff, Kushner had a 15-point proposal, which was basically Iran's surrender. Iran had a 10-point proposal saying Trump surrender. And as of yesterday afternoon, there was no budging, it seemed, because Iran said It's either our 10-point proposal or nothing. And I know how pathetic and weak and what a loser Donald Trump has been his entire life. And we know that Donald Trump tacos, and right as Donald Trump sets a deadline, right, his deadline where he was going to obliterate the Iranian civilization was 8 p.m. Eastern yesterday. And as we were getting close to that, it was like, would Trump really adopt all of those 10 points, which is giving Iran the biggest victory perhaps in its entire history and making Iran one of the major, if not the major force now in the Middle East, a major global power? Trump agreed to all 10 points. And you don't have to believe me. I mean, here's what Trump said. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it as a workable basis on which to negotiate. Almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated. So Donald Trump is saying right there that he agreed to the 10-point proposal. And as you dig deeper in like what the Iranians are saying, here's an account right here that's very close to Tehran. And what they are saying is the following. During the 2-week ceasefire, only about 10 to 15 ships will be permitted to pass through the Strait of Hormuz with Iran's approval in coordination with the IRGC Navy and after payment of tolls, and the United States is committed to releasing all of Iran's frozen assets. The Strait of Hormuz will in no way, even after a final agreement, be open as it were before. Relative to a pre-war pace, before the war, 100 to 120 ships a day. So now if we're talking about 10 to 15 ships a day through the Strait of Hormuz, or one could read that as 10 to 15 ships total throughout the next 2-week period, we'll see. And they have to be escorted by the Iranian Navy right now. And they're going to pay tolls to Iran, millions of dollars in tolls right now. And the Trump regime thinks that this is a big win, that this is a victory. You know, this account, Owen Jones, posted Iran's 10-point plan. Owen goes, this is Iran's 10-point plan, which Trump has accepted as a workable basis on which to negotiate. Have no doubt, this is the biggest strategic defeat suffered by the U.S. since its emergence as a superpower. And what Owen says is frankly an understatement. Stephen Chung, Donald Trump's weirdo communications director, he responds and says, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, you loser. Go back to whatever hole you crawled out of because you clearly can't read. This is Stephen Chung. Stephen Chung is saying to this guy, you're a fucking loser. I mean, who talks like this, right? They're all gangsters. Who speaks like this? But I don't need to read it from Owen Jones, Stephen Chung. Everybody who's been watching the MeidasTouch network for the past few weeks knows the 10-point plan that Iran suggested for a resolution. It was meet them on their terms. And if you don't, Iran doesn't want to talk to you, and you've agreed to all of their terms. Previously, there were leaks. The Trump regime thought these maximalist demands will never be met. And you agreed to all of them. So what do I think is going to happen? Isn't it pretty clear the ceasefire is going to fall apart pretty quickly, in my opinion? This isn't going to be a shocker. And then the war is going to rage on again. And then the markets are going to crash again after going up. And people are going to make money on having bought low. And now it's going to go up. And lots of people are going to lose. I mean, that's where I think it's going. So from the Iranian perspective, you just got the United States president, the president of the United States, what was once the most powerful country in the world, to post a statement saying they've agreed to your 10-point framework, with which anybody with an education who's been studying what's been happening knows 10-point plan. That means complete surrender. I don't even need to look at what the points are because we've known them for weeks. Iran hasn't changed. And Trump just bowed down to Iran. And that's why you see the people in the street of Iran celebrating. They know they've defeated Donald Trump And as a result of Trump's weakness, got the United States to look like a fool. And it's so humiliating as a patriotic American to see this. And then to see state regime media, which calls itself Fox, and other right-wing people trying to act like, oh, the liberals, they were, what are they going to do now? Donald Trump did a great deal. This was the worst possible deal imaginable, period. Before the war, Iran didn't control the Strait of Hormuz. Now they control it with an iron fist. Now all sanctions get removed. America leaves its military bases. America recognizes that there are total security guarantees for all the Iranian proxies. America will pay for Iran's reparations. America recognizes Iran basically as a global power right now. That's what the U.S. agreed to and by those 10-point plans. And then Trump's going to be like, oh, I didn't know. That's not what the deal was. Iran tricked me. I'm going to obliterate them to the Stone Age, right? When is that going to happen today? Is that going to happen by Friday? You know it's happening soon, right? We know his sicko pathology. You can tell that Lindsey Graham is very confused right now and very upset. Here's what Lindsey Graham posted. Like everyone, I hope we can end the reign of terror of the Iranian regime through diplomacy. We must remember that the Strait of Hormuz was attacked by Iran after the start of the war, destroying freedom of navigation. Going forward, it is imperative Iran is not rewarded for this hostile act against the world. As to an Iranian 10-point proposal to end the war, I look forward to reviewing it at the appropriate time and its submission to Congress for a vote, like we did with the Obama JCPOA. I want to reaffirm that from my point of view, every ounce of the approximately 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium has to be controlled by the U.S. and removed from Iran to prevent them in the future from having a dirty bomb or returning to the enrichment business. The Libyan model, for a lack of a better phrase, time will tell. No, we don't need time will tell. As part of the 10-point plan, Iran gets to enrich its uranium. Okay. As part of the plan, they control the Strait of Hormuz and get to charge a $2 million toll per ship. And the United States recognizes that. You know, they'll probably charge in the yuan, in the Chinese currency, in the yuan, they'll probably charge that to devalue the American currency. Iran got total capitulation. Remember when the war started, this unlawful invasion, it was, we are going to do regime change. Well, now you've got a more powerful regime that controls the Strait of Hormuz. You've now recognized their ability to enrich uranium, to keep their ballistic missile stockpiles, and to protect all of the Iranian proxy groups. How do you think the others in the Middle East feel about that? Well, let's take a look. MBS is livid, right? Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia livid, and UAE livid. And they want this ceasefire to fall apart. So between Netanyahu, UAE, Saudi Arabia, they're going to do everything to try to unravel this ceasefire, right? They need, if Iran has this level of power right now, they're all like, we're screwed. The security umbrella that we thought we had with the United States to protect against this just made us the weakest players in the Middle East, and Iran, with the help of China and Russia, is now the strongest, and they call the shots in the Middle East. So here's what's happening. Netanyahu's office says Israel supports the suspension on strikes, but Israel will not stop attacking Lebanon, which was one of the sticking points for Iran. You can't attack Hezbollah. And Israel's prime minister's office said last night, Israel will suspend strikes against Iran, but it says the 2-week ceasefire does not include Lebanon. So already there's a disagreement in what the 2-week ceasefire said, because clearly the 10-point plan included Lebanon, it included Hezbollah, it included the Houthis, it included the Shiites in Iraq, the Shiite militia groups in Iraq. And as of last night, Israel's still carrying out strikes in Iran. Here's how Ben Rhodes puts it. In the best case scenario, the best, Trump struck a deal to reopen a strait that was open before the pointless war he started, with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps demonstrating its control over the strait and potentially extracting fees plus sanctions relief. Thousands of innocents, including hundreds of children, dead in Lebanon and Iran for no reason. U.S. troops killed and wounded. U.S. embassies and bases in the Middle East badly damaged. U.S. standing in the world obliterated. U.S. munitions badly depleted, hundreds of billions spent, prices up everywhere, more global economic fallout to come, Putin strengthened and enriched, just a catastrophic situation, even in the best of circumstances, a profoundly shameful episode in America history, no matter what happens next. Now, even Trump supporters and people who were big Trumpers and what he was doing in Iran are like, what the F? Dr. Eli David says, what the F? Trump just shared Aragchi's post that he's accepting the regime's 10-point proposal. As a reminder, here's the proposal. Others are saying this is, of course, seen as weakness by the entire Middle East, absolute weakness. And meanwhile, Israel has continued to strike Lebanon because it says Lebanon isn't included, Hezbollah isn't included. Israel's going to do everything Netanyahu's going to do anything in his power to try to blow up this ceasefire. Look, Iran and Oman just hanging there, collecting toll fees right now, mocking Donald Trump. You have the Trump taco logo right there. I mean, this was the single biggest of all the humiliations in American foreign policy. Historically, this is the number one. Utter defeat, utter capitulation. And that's why I'm just reading you the facts, what the points are. No spin, no yelling, no hyperbole. Just read it. Judge for you. You can disagree with me, but I'm reading you and you've known for weeks now watching the MeidasTouch network, right? That 10-point framework isn't new to you, right? Because you've been watching MeidasTouch and we've talked about their 10-point framework. That's what Trump agreed to. Wow. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.